Skyrim. What else is there left to be said about this game? On the surface, Skyrim is a bland and shallow experience of a game, abounding with inadequate and nonsensical writing, poor quest design, and a bare-bones combat system, based on a finicky, outdated engine. But that is just that, the surface. If you dig but a little deeper, you find a borderline crypto manifesto that, if released 10 years later, would get the game removed from Steam in a heartbeat and put Todd Howard on a watchlist. Which other game not only includes an ethno-nationalist Nordicist rebel militia as a joinable faction, but also makes them the objectively correct choice?
All true patriots now attack!
Which other game has you defeat the final antagonist by using an anti-dragon racial slur? Which other game takes place in a country of fair-skinned, fair-haired descendants of mythical Hyperboreans suffering from a migrant crisis and doesn't even put in the effort to present said migrants in a remotely sympathetic light?
Do you hate the Dark Elves? Are you here to bully us and tell us to leave?
But consider the following. What in the lore of the Elder Scrolls franchise often disguises itself with sophistic terms like the Sigic Endeavor, Chezarine, Songs of Return, Chim, or Amaranth has at its heart a single, banal, and easy to grasp concept: racism. It may not seem obvious at first, but this is the kind of stuff Bjorn Powerfister won't shut up about halfway through his bottle of Blackbriar mead. Or did you think Isgor Mozax being a literal snow elf soy jack was just a random aesthetic choice? Have you ever looked up why Imperials venerate Pelinal Whitestrake? Are you even aware that when an Altmer prays to Auriel or Trinimac, he indirectly asks for the annihilation of the entire human race?
Nothing personal.
Once you realize that the core of Elder Scrolls metaphysics is divinely mandated ethnic tensions, statements like Skyrim belongs to the Nords don't quite sound so extreme. You know how the saying goes: never ask a woman her age, a man his salary, and a Breton what his ancestors did in Orsinian in Wally 950.
It's a giant slimy maggot. Apparently the Greyskins consider its flesh a delicacy. I overheard them mention there's some grayskin traders from Morrowind that bring some of these creatures to Windhelm.
Sure, stones. That's just what we need. More vermin in Windhelm.
Don't worry about it. I doubt those creatures will thrive in this climate.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the maggots.
However, can racial conflict on a cosmic scale alone prop up this ailing behemoth of spaghetti code and failed promises in the year of 2025? Admittedly, yeah, quite a bit. But the sophisticated RPG gamer might expect a little bit more out of his open-world sandbox experience. One can only insult Severus the Dunmer so many times before it gets boring. And besides, some Dunmer are actually alright, like my man Mallow here. What is it you do here?
Me? Nothing. And I hope to keep it that way.
What a legend. In order to extend the shelf life of Todd's magnum opus, we will have to rely on dubious third-party content. So I bid you to join me on a journey where the borders between Elysium and Tartarus blur, where venomous snakes coil around the tree of golden apples, to a place where happiness often comes at the cost of sanity. The free market of ideas. Once you enter this place for the first time, it won't take long until you come upon 3 unwritten but iron laws. 1. The majority of mod authors are mentally ill, do not engage. 2. Adding the word immersion to your mod's title is a go-to way to oversell your product, but no one knows what immersion actually means. And 3. No matter how many combat mods you install, right down to replacing the entire system with something else entirely, it won't get any better. But let's address the elephant in the room right away. By all accounts, Skyrim Nexus should have bankrupted OnlyFans and just about every other major porn producer years ago, so how come these sites are still around? Well, the only imaginable answer would be ease of access. Enter any given mod's comment section and you've just taken a slide down the left side of the bell curve, where installing a single ESP file becomes a monumental task if your mod manager doesn't take care of it for you. Kids these days don't know how good they have it. Back in my day, we had to drop files into the data folder manually, potentially overwriting critical files over and over again until the place became more chaotic and corrupted than the deepest layers of oblivion, at which point we'd make a clean install and start the process anew, forever trapped in an ever-repeating cycle of cosmos and chaos. Nowadays, all you have to do to turn Tamriel into a deranged fetish hell is click a single button, but even that is too much to ask for half of Skyrim's player base. But we're getting a little off track here. While I'm at it, I'd like to showcase a handful of mods that I personally found enjoyable. So let's return to the core matter at hand: racism.
Come to gawk at the Dark Elf.
For that reason, the first actual mod I would direct you to is called Imperious Races of Skyrim. Why? Because if you're playing Lord, every 10 levels you get to pick a race that you will subsequently deal more damage against. And I ask you, which mod has you become more racist as you grow more powerful and vice versa? Now that's what I call lore friendliness. I don't know what any of the other racial abilities do because I haven't played them, but I do appreciate the author's commitment to Elder Scrolls lore. Now that we got the most important part out of the way, what's a grown man to look for here? Why do we play this game in the first place? Well, these days, the only outlet for the masculine energies of red-blooded males like me are 40-hour weeks at pointless, soul-sucking jobs or dying in equally pointless foreign conflicts just to feel something. Thus, for me, there remains only one other option: playing dress-up with virtual characters. That is why the armor section has always been my favorite, and if you ask me, there aren't any better armor modders than Lord War. The perfect blend of fantasy and realism, much unlike the author's home country of Ukraine, in which fantasy and reality often seem to clash. Another author I quite like is Epilogue. His mods are severely underrated and consist of several well-crafted and atmospheric dungeons, all with their own little storylines and secrets to unlock. These range from the tomb of Skyrim's version of King Midas to some kind of esoteric Buddhist vampire church, including vampire non-dualist philosophy and plenty of tantric torture. Never drink the Cold Harbor Kool-Aid. On the subject of locations, I can also recommend Easy Rider's Dungeon Pack, which in some ways resemble Eidolon's mods in that these dungeons are all well crafted and atmospheric. Arguably one of the best parts of the Skyrim experience is to explore its beautiful landscape, and I always appreciate mods that add more landscape to explore, that just let me sit back and take it all in to a cup of coffee. One could even argue that mods such as these turn Skyrim into one of the best immersive sims of modern times. That is, if immersive sim were a real genre. But when you're dressed in spiffing armor, you probably don't want to settle for a bit of spelunking and sifting through Draugr dungeons for bits of pocket change like a rube. No, you need an adventure fitting for a man dressed like a peacock. And when it comes to grade A, top-class media entertainment, there's only one place that can provide what we need: Japan. Famous Japanese quest mod author Vicn, I'm just gonna call him Vicn, acquired undying fame and glory through his trilogy, now tetralogy, of Vigilant, Dakota, Glenmaril, and Onslaught. Now, a fair warning, since the Vicn series starts out kind of weak. You're approached by a man at Dawnstar's Tavern who completely unprompted and out of the blue asks you to join his dubious club of Daedra hunters. What initially sounds like the beginning of a Ponzi scheme turns out to be something much, much worse. Because in the Elder Scrolls equivalent of a crypto mining scam, it's not your money at stake, but your very soul.
Stop. Please. Stop.
Don't trust anyone. Don't make any promises because you don't know what you're in for. Remember, you're not dealing with your average Draugr Dungeon fetch quest. You're dealing with a Japanese man's inborn dedication to the grind and complexity addiction combined with Michael Kirkbride's worst lorem ipsum ramblings. One moment you're taking care of your very own adopted lolly, a dream come true, and the next you're... Not again. Vicn's mods deal with the very deepest layer of Elder Scrolls lore, peeling back layer by layer over the course of his quests as you're being guided towards an inevitable and terrible conclusion. And when you've reached the end of your journey and finally stand upon the blue star, what will you find? If you've been paying attention, you probably already know the answer. Racism.
I heard rumors he's insane. A half-breed of a human and an elf. He hunted elves at first and then finally humans. He was neither one or the other because of his blood. That's why he went mad. It's a pity, really.
The mundane and the transcendent. From the right angle, they're both the same. And if that's the case, why not start on a smaller scale? Return to the basics before cavorting with malevolent squid gods. The blue star can wait. The boys in blue need you right now, so pick up your most stylish armor and weapons so you can join the Stormcloak cause in style. One final kick to Brunwald Freewinter's groin and it's off to the Windhelm Palace. Don't delay, don't hesitate, Skyrim must be free. It's been 3 years since Ulfric Stormcloak's final victory in Solitude. Things have changed and left me quite confused. I rarely see any Nord blacksmiths anymore, as their professions have all been taken up by orcs. Elves get preferential treatment at the College of Winterhold, and the number of Nord students and instructors has finally reached 0. I'm pretty sure they're all selling state secrets to the Aldmeri Dominion too. The entirety of Whiterun is now populated exclusively by Nazim, who bought permanent visas for 50,000 septims each from Ulfric. But what confuses me the most is that the Thalmor embassy is still there. This isn't how I imagined it. Did I go wrong somewhere? Maybe I should have taken a closer look at that dossier, but I wanted to believe. Why? Why am I still playing this terrible, outdated game? I'll tell you, I got a severe mental disorder. I've just finished a playthrough as of writing and I already got the urge to start another. I can't even play another game to cleanse my palate. Every time I try, this exact image of Todd appears in my mind. Mocking me, threatening me, telling me I'll never be free. Please help.